All right, we've made it to task A2. This is the second task in the assessment step. This is assessment plan. This task: develop, review, and approve plans to assess the implemented controls. Potential inputs include security, privacy, and SCRM plans, program management control information, common control documentation, organizational security and privacy program plans, the SCRM strategy, the system design documentation, supply chain information, enterprise security and privacy architecture information, security, privacy, and SCRM policies and procedures that are applicable to the system. Expected outputs for this task is the security and privacy assessment plan approved by the authorizing official. Primary responsibility for this task is on the authorizing official, the authorizing official's designated representative, and the control assessor. They're supported by the Senior Agency Information Security Officer, the Senior Agency Official for Privacy, the System Owner, the Common Control Provider, the Information Owner or Information Steward, the System Security Officer, and the System Privacy Officer. This does align with the SDLC. For a new system, it aligns with development and acquisition or implementation and assessment. For an existing system, it aligns with operations and maintenance. It does not, however, align to the cybersecurity framework. So let's dive into the task. The security and privacy assessment plans are developed by control assessors based on the implementation information contained in the security and privacy plans, program management control documentation, and common control documentation. So when the control assessor starts to develop their assessment plan, they'll use these documents as references to determine what controls have been implemented, how they've been implemented, and then determine the best ways to assess those controls to determine if they're functioning correctly, providing the correct level of security protection, and providing the correct output as required, if that's applicable. Organizations may choose to develop a single integrated security and privacy assessment plan for systems or the organization. An integrated assessment plan delineates roles and responsibilities for control assessment. So we know we have to look at privacy controls as well as security controls. So we can build one single assessment plan to look at both types of controls, or we can also develop two independent plans that can be used to assess privacy controls with one plan and security controls with the other plan. This is up to the organization to determine how they best want to accomplish this part of the task. Assessment plans also provide the objectives for control assessments and the specific assessment procedures for each control. So it's going to take a bit of time to build this plan. It's going to determine how you're going to go about conducting each of the assessments for each of the controls, what those procedures are, and what the objective is for that assessment of that specific control. Assessment plans reflect the type of assessment the organization is conducting, including some of these examples: development, testing, and evaluation, independent verification and validation, audits including supply chain audits, assessment supporting system and common control authorizations or reauthorization, program management control assessments, continuous monitoring, or assessments conducted after remediation actions. Assessment plans are reviewed and approved by the authorizing official or the designated representative of the authorizing official to help ensure that the plans are consistent with the security and privacy objectives of the organization. Employ procedures, methods, techniques, tools, and automation to support continuous monitoring and near real-time risk management and are cost effective. So it's important that the AO or the AODR reviews and approves the assessment plan, because that's the plan that will be used to assess the controls that are required on the system, and then those results of those assessments will be provided back to the AO so that they can make a risk-based decision on letting the system move forward into the production environment. So we need to make sure that the plan is consistent and it meets the security and privacy objectives of the organization. That's the first thing. They employ procedures, methods, techniques, tools, and automation to support continuous monitoring or near real-time risk management. So does the control assessment that was laid out in the plan support that? Does it use automation, or is it a manual process? And is it cost effective to conduct this assessment? Those are some of the things that the AO or the AODR will review the control assessment plan for. The approved assessment plan establishes expectations for the control assessment and the level of effort for the assessment. Approved assessment plans help to ensure that the appropriate resources are applied towards determining control effectiveness while providing the necessary level of assurance in making such determination. So when the authorizing official or the authorizing official's designated representative approve the plan, then they're also approving the level of assessment for the plan. This will determine the control effectiveness and include the requirement to provide the necessary level of assurance to make determinations on risk. When the controls are provided by an external provider through contracts, interagency agreements, lines of business agreements, licensing agreements, or supply chain arrangements, the organization can request the security and privacy plans and assessment results or evidence from the provider. So when we're getting controls being provided by an external provider, we want to make sure that that provider can also provide us evidence of how the controls are implemented. So references for this task include Special Publications 853 Alpha, 160 Volume 1, 161, and IR 8011 Volume 1. In this module, we discuss Task A2, its inputs and outputs, roles and responsibility, SDLC and CSF lifecycle alignment, the assessment plan development, integrated plans, plan objectives, types of assessments, plan review and approval, external providers, and the reference section. If any of this doesn't look familiar to you, please go back and review the sections you need to review. If it all makes sense, on to the next video, or if you're taking the lesson, on to the lesson content.